I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Yes, that's what we're going to be showing you later in the show today. But let's get the show started. It must be a Friday the 13th, I think it is today. So here I am. That was just a voice in the background, but I've materialized live and in person. Anyway, creating memorable marketing moments with people. That's what we're going to talk about today with my esteemed guests. But before we do that, a couple of things I want to get through is if you're watching us live today, thank you for being here wherever you are in the world. And if you're catching us on the replay, remember #replay so that we know you're watching us. And if you can let us know where you're from, that would be fantastic as well. I want to do a shameless plug for the group of awesome coaches I hang out with. Here we go. As time goes on, fewer people know who Brian Tracy is, but that's okay. I know who he is. He's an amazing individual. He's been in and around the world of business, sales, personal development for 40 plus years, 90 books he's authored. And why do I bring him up? Well, Focal Point is one of his creations, actually. He actually has a book called Focal Point, and out of that came a company called Focal Point Business Coaching. And I'm one of several hundred around the globe that are involved with that content. It's fantastic, timeless content. So if you ever have a question for a coach, maybe something around time, team, money, exit strategy, which means a variety of different things for different people. If you are an entrepreneur, business owner, sales executive, up and coming, want to start your own business, have a 20-minute coaching call, complimentary, no credit cards required. And if you're interested in doing that, you could send me an email at phil@coachphil.ca. Okay, I'm done with the sponsorship. Now we can get into why we're really here. I'm the host, and I have a wonderful gentleman who's going to be joining us just in a few minutes. And he is 35. He was 35 years in the corporate world. His last position was provincial manager for the world's fourth largest physical security company. He started coaching part-time in 2002. His first client was his wife, who ran a small health and nutrition business that profit-wise was up and down like a yo-yo. After that, he had some friends and other small business owners come to him for help. He was able to successfully help each of these people and their businesses profit and prosper. In 2009, John retired from corporate and moved back to his hometown in southwestern, we call that SWO, southwestern Ontario, where he worked full-time as a coach. Now he's going to share his wisdom with us in the 30 minutes-ish that we have here. So I want to bring my friend, John Allen, onto the screen. Here he is. Welcome, John. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate you having me here. One more good thing about Mr. Tracy is he's a Canadian.
That's right. And he's from Eastern Canada, I believe was PEI.
Yep. So, keep it on the Canadian side here.
That's right. Yeah, he is now Americanized, though. He's been living in San Diego area, just north of San Diego, for a whole bunch of years. Anyway, yeah. So Brian's had an impact on a lot of people, and I'm glad and fortunate enough that I get to continue on some of his great ideas and knowledge that he's figured out over the years to share his brilliance with other people. But we're going to share some of your brilliance today. So tell me more, a little bit, not like the high level, 35 years in corporate, that's cool. But you say provincial manager of the world's fourth largest physical security company. It was like policing security company or like a investment security company?
More like policing. It was with Garda Security.
Okay.
And what I did was I had 733 employees under me.
How
So
many?
733.
Wow. That's a
I
few.
got to do a lot of babysitting.
And then you left that because you found coaching, right?
Yeah, what happened actually in 2000, I suffered a major brain aneurysm. I
Oh,
was given less than a 10% chance to live. And if I did live, the odds were 85% against me having any kind of a normal life. So obviously I came through that. And when I was in corporate, I was a workaholic, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week. And the big guy upstairs, he figured I wasn't paying attention. So the little nudges he gave me, so he gave me a smack alongside the head with a 4x2 plank in the form of a brain aneurysm.
right.
So that changed my whole outlook on life. And one of the things I did was on my way home from the hospital, I looked up and I made the big guy a promise that if he would let me live, I would spend the rest of my life helping small business owners get the most out of their business. That's how my wife became my first client.
That's quite the backstory. And what it reminds me of, John, is one of my mentors, well before I met Brian Tracy in the late 70s. I guess I was pretty close to meeting Brian. I met Brian for the first time about the early 80s. Anyway, two ways we learn things: sudden impact, an aneurysm. Boom! Jars our preserves. And, jarring our preserves could be defined two different ways, and this came from the same mentor. He is also Canadian, Leland Val Vanderwall. I'm not sure if you know who he is. There's not many people who do, but some do. And that's what he was saying. He says the way change happens is impact, loss of life, health issue, loss of love, job, whatever it is, or constant space repetition. So I think for the most part, that's the place you and I like to play, is to help our clients be consistent in improving their aspects, all aspects of their life and their business. And as a result of doing that, live the life they only dreamt of, and now they get to actually live it, right? So constant space repetition is kind of what coaching is all about, isn't it?
Right. I believe in permission-based selling. And basically what that is, as you're well aware, and a lot of your listeners are, let the prospect be in control. When they feel in control, like we all know that the prospect doesn't buy unless they feel understood. They don't have to understand us, but they have to feel understood. So when we can understand the prospect and their challenges and reiterate to them their problems better, basically, maybe sometimes better than they know it, that's when we're going to be successful in helping them, and they're going to get the most out of our services.
Oh, absolutely. I like that. I have a different way of saying the same thing. Do you mind if I share it?
Please.
No one cares about you until they know how much you care about them.
That is so true.
It's one of the themes that everything I do is in and around. That's threaded with amongst everything, whether it's working with salespeople, business owners, or individual athletes that I've had opportunity to work with. As strange as that might seem, being a business coach, working with athletes. Well, we're working on the leadership side of things, and it was a local university here. We worked with the USC Dinos football team. Never played football. Kind of understand the rules a little bit, but playing it and understanding it's two different things. And hanging out with these young men and helping them with the leadership side of things has been just a great gift.
That would be an amazing way to do it, especially with all the different personalities and everything that are involved.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for that.
And it was fun, right? Well, you don't
Right.
know, but I'm telling you, it was fun. Here I said, it's fun, right? How do you know? You weren't there. So what's been fun for you in the coaching space?
Basically, the thing that I get the biggest joy out of it is helping others succeed. That when they come to us with a dream, and a lot of them have no idea how to get there.
Mhm.
Or what I like to think of is I like to work with people after they've been in business a minimum of 1 to 3 years, because then they get over the honeymoon stage of I hung up my sign and they will come, and they realize they need help. That's one of the biggest things with small business owners. They have to be willing to turn to people when they need help. You know, you and I are both well aware, Phil, that businesses don't go out of business because they ran out of ideas. They go out of business because they ran out of cash. And a lot of small business owners, they buy themselves a JOB. And I let JOB,
Can I just define what that is?
sure,
What's one way? A JOB stands for just over broke.
yeah, yeah. And you and I both know, like when a lot of these small people or guys buy a small business or start their own small business, they're actually working harder and making less than if they work for somebody else.
Boy, is
So,
that's so true.
it's to be able to go through and help these people to grow their dreams, to help them expand, to get the clients they need, to be able to convert those clients into, or convert those prospects into paying clients, and to generate the cash and the lifestyle they want. That to me is an incredible feeling.
I had an aha moment as a coach. I'm always looking for ways to sharpen my saw, my axe, whatever metaphor you want. And I came across, or an email came across, and it asked what business we're in. Um, as a business owner, what business are we in? And many will talk about the vocation, the trade, whatever they're doing, as what the business they're in, which is not accurate. And I was and I still believe that we're in the business of finding people to help and keeping them as clients. That's one of the things. But I heard something even um, a twist to that, and that is to have a business that serves us, not something that we like. You were talking about you were a workaholic as in the corporate world, and you just said that many of the small business owners are working really hard, at least long hours, long days, and not earning a lot of money. And it's not all about money, but it's about the freedom that the money provides so that you can live the life that you want to live. So they end up being married to their business versus being married to their spouse. And it was described as they actually have a mistress and the business is the mistress, if it's a guy, obviously. And what I like to see or think about is how I've been a part of helping people stay true to their, call it marriage, and not have the mistress of their job, their business, right? They've been able to make it be part of the whole so that they can live the life that they had thought they would live instead of working so hard like you were talking about.
That's an interesting perspective. It's yours today and mine tomorrow because I'm going to swipe that one. That one sounds
I
pretty
heard
good.
somebody say, first 2 times, I'll give you credit. After that, I own it. And I'm okay with that because I borrowed it from another organization, a coach that I'm on their list. And I thought, well, that's actually a really good explanation of what we do.
One of the other things I like to do, Phil, is when you walk people through, they have to go through 3 or 4 steps before they become a client.
Yeah.
You've got to make a connection with them. And it's not just, you and I aren't just one and done. It's you want to build a relationship with that person. Because you know as well as I do, people, when you build a relationship, there's more to it than just, yeah, give me the product and run. You've got something involved with that person and they're looking to you for help and guidance. So that's one of the best things I find about building a relationship with people. You can really help them establish. The other thing that building a relationship does, if you screw up, and hey, I'm not perfect. I screw up all the time. And when you do, people are quite willing to forgive you and they'll overlook some of your minor screw ups, for a better term, so that you could get along. And that's one of the things about building a relationship rather than just a transactional one and done. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, unless you're selling commodities and pork bellies and things like that, absolutely. And one of the things that I've noticed is many businesses, no matter, it doesn't even matter whether it's a white collar or blue collar, just really doesn't matter. I've seen this happen numerous times, and that is that somebody works for somebody, they get mad at somebody. Well, let's call them George and Harry. So George is mad at Harry, and George thinks that Harry's not running a very good business, doesn't feel appreciated. So let's say he's a plumber. So he leaves, and he's got a truck, he's got his tool, he's got a few people that really like him. So he starts his business up called George. And
Yeah.
he looks at the website for where he came from and changes the name of the company and the color, but everything else is the same. And that's a common theme among a lot of business owners, startups for sure, is that they look at what their competitors are doing, they replicate it, change the color, change the name of the company, and they go run their business. And then when that happens, what they get into a problem with is becomes the only differentiator is price. And if price is the only differentiator, you're working way too hard for way too little money. And it's what I call insane. So if you were asking me at a networking event and they say, Phil, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm in the business of working with small to medium sized businesses to help them stop the insanity of being an entrepreneur. If people go, oh, okay, and walk away, then we're done. But insanity? What do you mean? And then I'll go into, well, are you a small to medium sized business owner? Yeah. Well, have you ever been in a situation you've got a referral or you've got a lead, a prospect, and you're talking to them? You ask a lot of great questions. You find out that you probably do have a really good solution for them, and they're leaning in, and it's going to go forward. It's feeling really good, and they ask for a proposal, and you go, great, no problem. I'll give you a proposal. And when you present the proposal, whatever the price is, they says, yeah, can I get it for 20% less? Because Joe Blow down the street can do it for the same price. And I asked them, has that ever happened? And they said, yeah, it happens way too frequently. I said, well, isn't that crazy? That's the insanity that it helps stop happening. And then there's a little bit more to it. But differentiating yourself is really crucial, because if we don't, then we're just going to compete on price. And if we keep compete on price, what happens, Joe?
Yeah, you just get the table scraps.
Yeah.
I like to describe it a little differently than what you do. I
Yeah.
tell people you don't want to be the Walmart of your industry.
That's right.
I'll pick on the American side for Nordstrom's. I'll ask the individual, do you shop at Nordstrom's? Well, or does everybody shop at Nordstrom? Well, no, only the wealthier people shop it. Can the people who shop at Nordstrom, can they shop at Walmart? Yeah. Which store would you rather shop at? Well, I'd rather go to Nordstrom's. What does Nordstrom's do different than Walmart? It's their positioning and everything else. Nordstrom's doesn't want the nickel and dimers. They want people that understand value and are willing to pay for it. They don't want just a cheap hand-me-down product or the knockoff product that comes out of China or wherever. They're looking for a quality product, and they're willing to pay a quality price for it. That's one of the main differences. And, I agree with you when you said about people going to be competition. They get mad at their boss or whatever, and they go, well, I'm just going to start a business.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, like you said, that happens way too often. One of the questions I like to ask when that comes up is, how many leads did your former employer get from his website? I don't know. How much business did he do from the former website, he or she do? I don't know. How much do you do from yours? I don't know. Is that any way to run a business? You and I both know business comes down to math, plain and simple. It's all numbers.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I've not. I have talked about the Walmart thing because they are very wide and not so deep in terms of their ideal market. Whereas most entrepreneurs, small to medium size, they can't be everything to everybody. So to be laser focused, like the name of Focal Point, that's one of the reasons why it's such a great name. And people buy Timex watches, and some people buy Rolex watches. What's the difference? They both tell the time, but it's how you feel with the decisions you've made. Some people can drive a Hyundai, or some drive BMW. What's the difference? Is how people feel in the product they're driving, right? So it's identifying who your ideal target audience is really what you're kind of hinting at there, aren't you?
Correct. You got to know who your ideal client is. Yes, you can serve people outside of that ideal client, but as you were saying, Phil, I like to tell people, you don't want to be a mile wide and an inch deep.
Right.
You want to be an inch wide and a mile deep. Because I heard a good analogy the other day. If you're drilling for oil, you've got to go down 100 feet plus to find the oil. If these oil companies drilled 100 holes, but they only went down a foot, they're never going to find any oil. But by going down the depth, that's where you find your ideal prospects, the people that you can help. You've got to answer that big old question of everybody's favorite radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? Because they have to know what's in it for them, or they're not even going to stop and look at
you. Yeah, totally. And the other thing, going back to your oil field analogy, drilling, there is platform drilling. And as you say, if they go down just a couple 100 feet, it's not even worth setting up the platform. They're going down, many, 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 many meters. And from the platform, if they do the research first, they don't just show up and poke a hole. They have a strategy. They do some science. They do some scientific guessing, because they're not always 100% right. But based on the data they have, they make an assumption that there's opportunity here. In recent years, I don't know exactly what the time frame is. It's been more than 20, 30 years. The reason I know is I have a survey calculation software tool that caters to directional drillers. I do nothing else with the oil and gas section, just that one niche. And platform drilling allows them to do directional drilling, and directional drilling allows them to have one rig poke a hole, and they can bring it back up if they haven't found anything, and then they can turn it and go a different direction, but they're still in the same proximity. And how that applies to us in business is you don't uproot your whole business. You just make a shift and try something a little bit different, to narrow down and refine. And going back to the numbers, it's about testing and measuring everything we do to see what works most of the time. And that kind of correlates with the directional drilling side of things. They're in the marketplace, but they just twist things a little bit to go to a different direction.
That is so true. If you look at a lot of businesses, if they just stuck with one thing and never altered from it to see what's working, what's not working, they go broke real quick. But when they go out and they get feedback from their audience and what have you, then they make little changes. I guess a better example is like if you jump in an airplane, you want to fly from Calgary to Hawaii. The plane doesn't go straight. It's on, off course, and everything else. It still gets there, but it's not always going perfectly straight. And that's what you have to do when you're looking for your ideal clients and prospects. You need to zig and zag and find out exactly what they want. Make sure you're staying on track.
I'm not a pilot, but I've heard, and I believe it's probably accurate, as much as 90% of the time, the aircraft's off course. So the pilots are always doing course correction, or the autopilot is, because of the winds and the turbulence and things that are, they know they're going to happen probably sometime, but they don't know exactly when all the time. And they do course corrections in order to go back to get them targeted to where they want to get to, right? So we as coaches help people identify where they are today and where would they like to be in the next couple of years. What's their ideal end game? And why do they want to get there? And when we help people find that out, at least that's what I found, they get to where they want to get to faster and quite often in a way that they never even imagined before.
That is so true.
Do you have any examples where you have a client where that's actually happened for them?
I did. I worked with a videographer, I guess they call her, a lady out of New Jersey. And at that point, she was charging, when I first met her, she was charging $800 to $1,200 for a 30-second commercial. And I got talking to her. For all she was doing, her prices were way out of line. So after we finished discussing, because she was writing the script, she was hiring the photographers, she was doing the editing, she was doing a reshoot if they needed it. She was doing all this stuff. And what I said to her is that $800 or $1,200 a month, or $1,200 a commercial, you're losing money. You're losing money fast. So what she did was we worked out a price, and she now decided to charge $4,000 to $5,000 for that same 30-second commercial. What happened when she started charging those rates? Dentists that dealt with children hired her, and because he wanted a short video made of kids coming into his dental office, being satisfied with the results. Not just mom and dad being happy, but the little kid had to be happy too. From that led to an optometrist that dealt with kids as well. So that to them was a very big deal. And again, it's just by making those adjustments to both her costs and everything she was doing that made all the difference in the world. That kind of answer your question?
Yeah, and I think it kind of is a great segue to this image I have on there.
Right. This is where. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to read it off so people can see it for sure. Clarity, connect, collaborate, and confirm.
Yeah, what it is, initially you have to get clarity when you're talking to the person.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find out what their problem is. And then in the connect, you've got to nurture that. You've got to engage them and have them want to carry on. In the collaborate, this is where you're empowering them. This is where the permission-based selling comes in, and it goes all through it, that you want them to collaborate with you, to empower, to see that you're the one that can help them. And then the confirm, this is where you're offering your solutions. They're going through and they see the value in what you offer. Here's one that you may not have heard before, Phil. I tell people there's 3 types of investments in everything they do. The first 2, the prospect controls. The third one I control. And when we go through and talk about the investments, they say, well, what's that? The first one is, are you committed to doing what's necessary to make this work for you? I'll be with you every step of the way, but you have to do the work. So if you're not committed to doing it, this deal's over. Yep, I'm committed. The second commitment is, are you ready, willing, and able to afford this? Because there is a cost. And, if you're willing to put in the cost and everything else, I'm willing to share. The third part, and this is where the one you get some really funny looks when you ask them, especially on Zoom, is convince me why I should take you on as a client. What this is doing, when you ask the person that way, what they're doing is they're actually reselling themselves on the benefits of working with you. And it's having some really great results. So it may be something you want to try and go from there.
I think that's great advice for any of our listeners today or in the future. It does a couple of things from what I'm thinking, and that is it summarizes everything we've talked about. And if they're totally clear with it, then they can go ahead and make a decision to do it. They have control. And if they're repeat that to themselves out loud, they might realize that, no, This isn't for me. And that's totally okay. And I think that can be applicable to any business. I can't think of anything or any business where that wouldn't apply if you wanted to try it. It's really just summarizing and confirming and validating it from their point of view. If it's a fit, great, let's get going. If it's not, great, let's not. It's okay. Either way, because one of the things we do is pretty intimate. We hang out with them, ask them a lot of tough questions. And if they're not ready, willing, and able, then what's the point? It's a waste of their time. They won't feel good about it. And the same with us. It's not the best use of our time. We won't feel good about it. And it's not a happy thing. So I like that. I'm gonna leverage that. And that's why I guess you're the doctor of marketing, which in small prints was on the screen that I was showing there. I also want to show something else though, because just of time crunches, things go so fast up here. Let me share that screen. That's your website, and I'm going to help people see where that really is by putting that up here. It's AllenSmallBusinessCoaching.com. I almost said Allen's. Then it would be Allen's Mall Business. So now you have a mall. So it's AllenSmallBusinessCoaching.com. And there's his website. And look at that. He can help you find $10,000 to $100,000 in 45 minutes or less without spending a nickel, or pardon me, a dime inflation on marketing or advertising. So if you wanted to find out more about Doctor of Marketing, John Allen, there's a couple of places you can find him. Do you have one thing that you would encourage people to do from today on?
That's very easy. Know your why. When you know your why, that'll help you overcome any obstacles or whatever you run into. Your why has to be stronger than the obstacles. So when you're really clear on your why you want to do things, that's what's going to help you succeed in any business.
Yeah, that's sage advice. Sage advice, my friend. Thank you for being on the show. I mean, already like 30 minutes just.
I appreciate you having me, and thank you for the great opportunity.
We'll do it again.
Sounds good.
Thanks, John.
Bye.
Well, I thought that was pretty cool. Got to hang out with a doctor of marketing, 10 to 100K in 45 minutes or less without spending a dime on marketing. That's brilliant. But before we go, a couple of things I would like to do is offer you up this thing we call the business growth score. And basically, it's a self-assessment as to where you think you are in your business. And if that's of interest to you and you would like to have this survey or assessment completed, all you have to do is go to businessgrowth-philjones.scoreapp.com. That's a mouthful. If you go to my website, which is coachphil.ca, the link to that business growth assessment is there as well. And again, there's no credit card required, no money to be spent, just a way for you to see where you're at in terms of your business growth. One other thing I wanted to talk about today was this. This comes from Leland Val Vanderwall. I talked about him already when I met him in the 70s. And he has said, be wonderful, but he spells it a different way. He took it from the O and put it in the U because you are wonderful. Go act like it. Till next time, I'm Coach Phil. And the next episode of the Business Renovator will be just a few short days away. So I hope to see you there.
I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.